Alright, in this lab 15A we're dealing with classes. So we have a couple parts that we're going to be looking at. And let me go into the code and show you how this is going to be done. So we have part 1 where we're going to create a class type of cat and create a couple variables for that. And we'll go into the code and start adding some syntax. So we got the template set up for you guys, so you can see where the areas we're going to be adding the code. So the first thing we're going to do is start out our class, and we're going to come over here under classes to create a class called cat. And first thing we're going to do is we're going to create the class type, which is cat. Notice then we get the semicolon. It's going to do a automatic indentation on there. And we're going to create our variables. So before we create our variables, we need to define our constraints here. So this is again identifying information pertaining to the variables we're going to be utilizing and the template itself. So these are going to be our constraints. And first thing we're going to do is we want to have a name. So we'll have self.name is equal to name. We'll have color, and then we have our weight. So that's basically identifying all the variables that we're going to be utilizing. So that is that for the variables. Now we're going to create two functions. So to create this, all it is just a series of print statements. So again, we need to create a definition here. So here is our function, and again, all this stuff, when we have the word self in here, we're identifying the template itself. So one thing we're going to do then is print out the cat's name is, and this is our syntax, cat's name is, and then here is what we're utilizing is this component there. Because again, when we pass parameters into the function, this is going to be the variable that's going to be utilized for the template there. Next line then, we're going to print the color, and then the last one is the weight. So that's the simple function for that. And now for function 2, we're going to create another one that is going to display this information here. Now ignore the colors. For some reason the system is displaying different colors. I don't need to have different colors on that part. So we have our indentation, and then we're going to create our new function definition. So this one's going to be for catWeight, and we're going to add this syntax so it displays, and ignore the colors right now. I'm not sure why on my screen the colors are different. There's no need to change the colors or anything. So we'll do our first print statement of the weight info. Next one is just the horizontal lines, and then the next print statement is going to be identifying, right, self name. All right, so we put the name, and then weighs. So we have the amount of the weight that we have here, and then we have the pound symbol, and then we have the information pertaining to what would be in terms of kilos. So this is utilizing the weight times 0.45, which converts it to the kilo. And that's basically how we end up creating the template for the class cat, for the object. So these are the different parameters there. Alright, in part 2, what we're doing is creating basically two variables that are coded, C1 and dog, and these would be the parameters here. I know it's kind of weird that I'm utilizing the word dog for something that's describing a cat, but I'm just showing you that the variables really don't matter in terms of the names, but they should again be fairly descriptive in terms of what we're doing. I'm just trying to be a little bit different here. So this is basically our variable for C1. So this is our variable. Cat is going to be the class that we're utilizing, and then we have our parameters here, right? So we have Felix, which is going to be the name, black, which is the color, and then the weight, which is going to be 10. So basically, it kind of looks like this portion is like a set or a list, right? but now we're utilizing a class that we created called cat, and we have all these additional elements basically with the class. And then we have dog, so we have Tom, blue, and then a weight of 40. So anytime when we're basically referencing dog with the cat class, we have access to all this particular information. Alright, so for part 3, we're going to create the code and display the information as needed here for the parts down below here. So we have our main program. I already have the information set up here for the message header, and here are the different parts. So in this one here, we're going to create the syntax ID, the data type of C1, and the syntax here is going to be this. So print, all right, we're using an F string. Data type for C1 variable is going to be type, then C1, because again we're trying to identify what type of variable it is. And then when we run the code, we can see that data type of C1 is going to be, and how about that? It's identifying that it is a class cat. Next line here. Create the syntax to display the values of C1, and here's our print statement. So the values of C1 are, so we have the variable that we've created, and then we're utilizing .name.color.weight to correspond to these items that we have assigned for C1. So when the code is executed this time, we can see that the values of C1 are Felix, Black, and 10. Our statements here: create a syntax to display C1 utilizing the function of printIntro. So inside this class we have printIntro. So this is going to then display these particular print functions. So come down over here, make sure our indentation is correct. So what we're going to do is create a little header on this. So this info is going to be printing the printIntro information, and then this is what we're doing. So we have our C1 that we created, and from C1 it knows that it's a cat class, and it's going to print out the information of printIntro. And then you can see that this information is printInfo from the function within the class, and then it basically displays the information the way we have it formatted all the way up here. Alright, continuing on, let's get rid of some extra lines. So we're going to create the syntax display C1 utilizing the function of catWeight. So we're basically identifying that we want to utilize this particular function from that class. So we'll just do a intro header, and then here is C1 catWeight, and then once we run it, this information is from catWeight, the function within the class, and this displays again this portion within that class. And then we're going to do the same thing for our next components here. So create a syntax to display the dog variable that we end up utilizing, and that is going to be this. So we're going to have a header information of what's going to do, and then dog printIntro, and from there we're going to do the same thing for the weight. So we'll have our header information, and then dog catWeight. So again, I'm just identifying that I'm able to utilize any type of variable. I know it doesn't really make sense logically to utilize a variable named dog to identify a class that we created like this, but again, I'm just making sure that you guys see the differences in terms of how we have a variable that's identifying a specific class that we created. Alright, so that was part 3, and then our last part, we're going to create a input for the user to be prompted to enter the information for the class cat. And there's actually two areas where we need to write our code. So up here in part 4, we're going to do our first part. We're going to create a function to do this. So I'm defining a function called myInputs. I'm going to have a header, print header information here, new values for the cat class, and then we're going to prompt the user to enter the following information, because we're going to need information pertaining to name, color, and weight. So we'll input, enter a cat's name, enter the cat's color, and then enter the weight. Now, all these variables that are utilized in this function, remember, all these things, these variables, are local to this function. We want to return these values back to the main program, and the way that we're going to do this is by utilizing a word called return in terms of the class cat, and name, color, and weight. So we're going to return this information, and we're going to come back to here, part 4a, where we're prompting user for cat details. We need to do this. So first thing we're doing is my inputs is equal to my cat. So again, a little bit confusing because we're creating yet another variable. So my cat is going to be a new variable that we created here, which is equal to my inputs. So as all this information got printed out and displayed, now it's going to prompt the user for input. So now this is going to run the function that we just created, prompt the user here, then it's going to return back and save that information to a variable called my cat. I'm going to have another print statement to identify what it's doing. So I have my header information, and then now since I have this as a new variable that I created, we're going to have a print intro here, and that's pretty much it. I mean, that's basically wraps up the information on here. So actually the syntax should have gone right here. Let me get rid of that and create the syntax to display the information of print intro. So this syntax would go right there. And then when we run it, you can see that everything got displayed in terms of our main header, identifying what class type cat is, identifying the values for C1, info for C1, and then here's the info for the variable dog. And now down below here, we're being prompted to move this up a little bit, to enter information about cat's name. So I'll do Homer, color, let's do yellow, weight, we'll do 40, and then the information gets displayed in print intro. So this portion, again, took my inputs, ran this function, returned this value to a variable called myCat, and now it basically prints out the print intro that is up here utilizing this class cat. So that's basically what we're going to do for this particular lab, and from there you're going to create your own program with parameters. Will be something very similar to this one.